Well, hello there everyone, it's Nina Marie. Thanks for joining me today for another video. I am so excited to be sharing this series of cards with you that I've created with the Simon Says Stamp February 2026 card kit. I absolutely had a blast making these cards. And not only was I so happy with how they turned out, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to share this video with you, but in addition to that, I also had a hand in designing these products. So Tim Holtz and I worked very closely together to formulate the collection of products that you're about to see. It's a series of stamps, stencils, and dies, and they all work together to help you build easy collaging. I absolutely love how this turned out. We spent quite a bit of time figuring out the right template layouts and then figuring out which dies we were going to include, and even down to the sentiments. Lots of thought went into picking the exact greetings that ended up into the stamp set. So all in all, I am so excited to share this with you. I hope you love the kit. I hope you love the cards that are going to be created with it. I hope you have so much fun putting stuff together, because collaging is such a great way to showcase a bunch of different shapes and patterns and colors on your projects, but sometimes they can be intimidating. But we wanted it to be easy and fun. So that's what I hope that you're going to get out of this card kit, is that you're going to have a blast making collages. So I'm going to share all 3 cards that I've created today using this card kit, but I do want to show you up close the products first before we get started. So let's start first with the stamp set. It's a 6x8. It contains many different greetings that can be used not just on cards, but also if you're a mixed media artist. These are great inspirational sayings too, so they are something that you can utilize outside of a handmade card. You'll also notice that there are some fun shapes at the bottom, and those are items that could be used to do some stamping with the collaging templates. There are dies that go with the stamps. You can purchase those separately. They are not included in the card kit, but they are a great add-on purchase. All right, moving on to the Artful palette collection. So this is a set of dies and stencils, and you get all of this in your kit. So the Artful palette dies are a series of squares, rectangles, we've got circles, and even then some hearts and butterflies. These are very intentional because they work with the stencil templates that you get in the kit. I want to point out that the stencil templates and also the dies are etched. They have the numbers of the shape etched on both the stencil and the die so that you can easily find the pieces that match up together. This is going to make your process super easy and hopefully so much more fun. So you're going to notice that all the stencils have the etching on the front, and then all the dies have the etching on the back. As you're working, you're just going to want to match up the numbers to find the pieces that work together. I want to show you all the templates too, because as we built these templates, we wanted a variety of not just some grid elements, something that's very clean and very classic with the collage, but we also wanted something that was going to be a little bit more freestyle. So you'll notice that some of these have more of a free-floating look, and then others are a bit more linear. Now, the other thing to note too is that these can be used on both portrait and landscape cards. They look good no matter which direction you use them. By the way, have you seen the new palette papers from Tim Holtz? How beautiful are they? They are brand new double-sided papers that stem from his fabric collection, which has such beautiful patterns and colors to it. Well, now you can get this in paper form. And what I love about the papers that you get in the kit is that you get a mix from both the red, pink, and orange palette collections in the kit. So you get a little variety of each, which I think is such a great way to be able to sample it out. So you can also purchase more paper outside of the kit, but it is nice to be able to have something right off the bat that you can start die cutting with. But I'm going to start by stamping actually. I wanted to have a bunch of greetings that I can pull from as I start creating. Because I knew I was going to make many cards, I didn't want to have to stamp each sentiment individually 3 different times. I wanted to have a whole stack of sentiments that I could pick from. Plus, then when I make more collage cards, I have still more things to choose from. So I'm stamping not just onto black cardstock, and I'm using white embossing powder to get that classic black and white effect, but I'm also going to have the reverse. So I'm going to have white paper stamped with black ink. Now I happen to choose VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink from Simon Says Stamp for my stamping just because it's my absolute favorite ink to stamp with. But there is a black soot archival ink pad included in your kit, so you could stamp with that too. Either way, you're going to get some beautiful greetings out of the stamp set. And then, like I mentioned, there are coordinating dies for the sentiments. Again, that is a separate purchase. These coordinating dies for the sentiments are not included in the kit, but they are a great add-on item. And you get sentiment dies for all of the greetings, including the single line text stamps. Everything has a die. So I'm taping all of these coordinating dies into place onto my black cardstock sheet. But I'm not going to remove the dies from my paper. In fact, I'm actually going to leave them intact, taped together onto the black cardstock, and I'm just going to lay that sheet right over top of the white panel. Because I had stamped these all in the same place, these dies line right over top of the next sheet of sentiments, so I can just run this through and cut it all out at once again. So now I have all of these sentiments cut quickly and easily, and it did manage to cut through the 2 sheets of cardstock. So that worked out really, really well. So I'm going to set these aside and we're going to start working on some die cutting. I am sorting through my little dies here from the Artful palette die set, and I'm figuring out which ones match up with the panels that I have here on my template that I've selected. So this template utilizes 5 different dies, and we're going to go ahead and start figuring out which portions of the pattern paper we would like to cut from. And that's what's fun about collaging, is that you get to mix and match things and have like a whole series of different pieces on one card. And by having them arranged so beautifully with a template, it takes all the guesswork out of figuring out where to place them. And then when you use the dies, I'm just roughly cutting out the shape with some scissors so it's a little bit bigger than the die itself. And then I'm using that interior portion of the die to get an idea of what it's going to look like once it cuts out. So now I'm going to lay all of my little pieces aside, and we're going to die cut another panel that we can use to build on top of. I wanted a nice decorative edge around this piece, so I pulled out the A2 scallop rectangles die set from Simon Says Stamp, and I've picked out this rectangle that's a tad smaller than an A2 card. I want to hold my template down and my paper as I'm working, so I'm laying the paper onto my craft tacky mat, then placing the template over top. These templates are stencils, so they can be used not just for the collage arrangements that I'm using it for right now, but we can still ink blend with these, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But that craft tacky mat is holding everything in place, so these aren't shifting while I'm working. I'm laying my little collage tiles into the spaces that they associate with. So, for instance, a panel that has the number 6 next to it, that coordinated with the number 6 rectangle die, I can then take my little rectangle and line it up into the number 6 well. So we're going to do that for all of our little pieces. The template is guiding us on where to place them, and I'm using a mix of different levels of foam tape dimension here just to get some variety on the height. You could have them all the same, you can vary them, it's totally up to you. These little shapes fit perfectly within those little wells, and then all you have to do when you're done is to just carefully peel back the template, and it will lift right off of the sheet, leaving behind the perfectly placed pieces. How beautiful does this look? And then with the mix of the different palette papers here, giving us a wonderful assortment of both color and pattern, it's absolutely spectacular. Let's do it again. Honestly, this is addicting. You're going to make a gazillion of these, I'm telling you. So this particular template that I'm working with is one that goes much closer to the edge of the paper. But I also die cut a cardstock panel that's almost an A2 card size. So I don't have as much of the template attached to my craft tacky mat as I'm working, but that's okay. I'm just going to take my power magnet here from Misty and use that over top because this is a magnetic glass board from Simon Says Stamp. So that's going to hold everything down in addition to the tacky mat while I place my pieces. Now for this one, I used a mix of both pattern paper from the palette collection, but also some plain cardstocks because I wanted to show you how you can get variety with your collaging. You don't have to use just pattern paper. If you're somebody who likes a little bit more of a clean and simple style, These Artful palette dies and templates are perfect for cardstock too. So I've gone ahead and created this beautiful assemblage of pieces here. I've got one more here that I'm going to assemble. This one's one of the free floating designs, which I think is really fun. This panel I've die cut with a postage edge, which is a little bit smaller than an A2 card. So I'll just line my template right over top of that. And I do have much more of that stencil template attached to the tacky mat, so that's going to hold everything down quite nicely. But because these templates are made from stencil material, remember that you can use them like a stencil and actually put ink through them. So I'm going to use 3 different shades of ink. I started first with Shell and Straw. These are 2 different Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated ink colors. I put Shell on the top, and I'm masking off the other areas with some Post-it notes, just so that way I don't get ink through any of the other shapes. I'll remove those masks to showcase what I've got here. I've got a beautiful little square, and we'll just reposition them over towards where I want to put the next little square of color. And so this one's going to be with the yellow. I just need to add another mask here along the bottom to mask off that other rectangle below it. If you're going to cover these with pattern paper and not have dimensional foam tape lifting it off of the panel, you could probably skip masking and not worry about ink getting onto another shape. But I am going to use foam tape, so you might see the color underneath, and so I would like to not have any ink showing anywhere else. I want it nice and clean, so that's why I'm going through the extra trouble of masking. So I'm going to use green. This is Artichoke as my last color, and that gave me 3 different little beautiful squares of color that I can now accentuate with a little bit of pattern paper. And I knew this piece right here was going to be my main focal piece. I really love the colors in it, which is why I chose those inks for my blending. So that square is going to go in the middle, and then I've got 2 little rectangles that I've die cut with both an orange and pink color. Those are going to make great accents. Speaking of accents, there are some fun shapes in these dies. We included hearts, butterflies, and circles that you could use either in place of one of the squares or rectangles, or you could also die cut these from some fun papers and layer them on top. And that's what I decided to do today for this particular panel. I want to have these little butterflies layered on top of the ink blended pieces. And these little butterflies, I want to also have a little bit of dimension on them, so I did fold the wings right down the middle as I adhere them to my panel. I want to make sure that the adhesive gets a good bond right in the center and that the butterfly is not leaning towards either side. So I'm using my tweezers to help really give it a good press right down the center of that fold. Once I have it arranged, then I can just go ahead and give it a good little push right in the middle there. You'll notice most of these are cut from some shimmer vellum from Simon Says Stamp, but I did put a gold one right in the middle of that green ink blended panel. So once I adhered all of my little butterflies in place, we have another beautiful collage panel created with the help of those Artful palettes, stencil templates, and also the dies. Check out how beautiful that is. I'm going to accent my little ink blended squares by putting some of these fun cello tape pieces onto the ends of the ink blended panels only. I wanted to give them something extra special, and these cello tape pieces you get in the kit, so I thought those would be a great little accent. But I did try to make sure that they were linear and balanced so it helped feel cohesive with the collage. For this other one, I decided to add them along the bottom and side of 2 of the panels. My next accent to the backgrounds is going to be a bit of splattering, so I've picked out Simon Says Stamp's Positively Perfect Splatter in gold, silver, and black. And we're going to splatter these onto our panels. I chose gold for this particular piece. I thought that would really pull out the gold in the butterfly, but then also that cello tape has a really nice golden tone to it. For this one here, I loved the dramatic black. I thought this was a perfect way to give some contrast to the papers, and I really thought it would pop off of these pieces, which it did beautifully. Finally, for this other one that has a very soft color palette to it, I decided to go for silver. And this is just a soft touch to these beautiful shades. This also adds a little bit of interest to those colored cardstock panels. Once that dried, I'm bringing in my sentiments. We're going to sort through here and figure out where we want to not only place our greetings, but also which ones we want to choose for our project. Initially, I thought the card on the left I was going to do as a vertical design, but in the end I decided to turn it and have it be a landscape card. You could honestly use any of these greetings for these cards because they're just so beautiful, and there's a nice assortment of font styles. We really tried to give as much variety as we could, while at the same time making sure they still balanced beautifully with the pattern papers. We wanted the fonts to still match well with these papers that are in the kit. So I ended up choosing the sentiments you see on screen right now. I'm popping each one of them up off of my project with foam tape just to give a little bit of lift off of the backgrounds. I want to make sure that they feel dimensional, but yet not at the same level of dimension as all of the panels behind it. So I'm just using extra foam tape to give me a little bit more lift. I really loved how this one turned out as a horizontal or landscape card, with that larger sentiment balanced off to the left, because it is also a left justified sentiment. It just balanced so beautifully and really has a cool layout. I'm going to accent this card with some of those butterflies. I cut them not only from some of the pattern paper, but I'm also going to use some of the vellum that I used earlier to add some additional butterflies in between. I wanted 3 of the butterflies to be from the pink paper, which gives a nice visual trio here, and then I'm also going to fill in with a bunch of the vellum ones, which are softer and a little less noticeable, but it really adds to the impact of this overall layout, where you've got the butterflies cascading up the card from the sentiment. And to really anchor that, I am going to use one of the vellum butterflies right on top of the O, so it kind of almost looks like the butterflies came out of there. All of these are glued onto the card by folding the butterflies in half and then putting the adhesive down the center. Wrapping things up, I'm picking out some card bases for each of these. I picked out a beautiful peachy colored base for this card, which really pulls out those pinky orangey tones. Then for the more pastel card, I decided to lean into the softer colors, and I picked out a Nina Desert Storm cardstock. This is in the kit, and I thought this was a perfect touch to go with the papers, but yet have a little bit of contrast, just not something that's going to be extremely dark. This one I glued directly onto the card using some liquid glue. And then finally, I'm going to put some black cardstock behind that last one. The black splattering really inspired me to add a little bit more black to the card and really draw in that color to create additional contrast. I wanted the interior of my card to be white though, so I did just glue an A2 panel onto a white card base, and then using foam tape, I'll put that on the back side of my collage panel and then glue that onto the card itself. You could leave the cards just like that, or you can add a tiny bit more embellishing like I'm doing here. So for this card, I picked out some gold dazzling gems from Simon Says Stamp. I glued those down with a bit of liquid glue, and just a few of them here and there, forming a little bit of a balance around the sentiment, and that right side of the card was perfect. This one, the word collect immediately made me think of buttons. I have a gigantic assortment of buttons that I collect. It's kind of an addiction, but I love using them on my projects, and so I thought some found objects made perfect sense for this project. So I'm going to glue a few of them onto my card. I did add a little bit of thread through this one here that had some holes. I actually tied that in a cute little bow just for a little accent. Trim up the ends, and that's going to look adorable, just tucked right there next to the gold button. And then I have a copper button down at the bottom that I thought was quite cool with the fun embossing on it. Oscar agrees. He thinks these cards are great, but he also thinks I should feed him dinner. So I'm going to wrap up this video by showing you the cards up close so you can see them in action and all of the fun sparkle, the shine, the dimension of the little palette pieces. I just am so giddy about how these cards turned out. It's so rewarding to see it come from something that was on your computer screen to a physical product that you can actually now make beautiful things with. I'm just so happy with how it turned out, and I hope you love it. Big thanks to Tim Holtz for working together on this project and helping create such beautiful pieces that we can now use to make such awesome cards. I hope you'll try this out for yourself, and I would love to hear what you think about the products. So these products are all part of Simon Says Stamp's February 2026 card kit, and you can get that card kit now. If the card kit is sold out by the time you're watching this video, because they are monthly kits and this might be something you're watching a month from February, most of the products that you see in the video are available for individual purchase too. So be sure to check out the links down below in the video description to find everything there. You can also go over to my blog to find more additional details about the products and also these cards. Well, I guess I better go so I can feed my little hungry kitty here. Oscar is patiently sitting next to me, waiting for some grubs. So I'm going to sign off and give him something special for being so patient. Thank you so much for watching today's video, friends. I will be back very soon with more to share. But until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day.